Poor people buy cars that lose value every month while making payments. Rich people buy rental properties that gain value every month while collecting payments. Same monthly cash outflow, opposite wealth outcomes over decades. This isn't about judging anyone's choices. This is about understanding the fundamental difference between assets and liabilities, and why most people accidentally spend their lives buying things that make them poor instead of things that make them richer. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. It sounds simple, but most people get this backwards because they confuse ownership with wealth building. Just because you own something doesn't mean it's making you wealthy. Let me walk you through the math. Say you buy a $30,000 car with a $500 monthly payment over 6 years. That car loses about $300 in value every month for the first few years. So you're paying $500 to own something that's losing $300 in value, plus insurance, gas, maintenance, and registration fees. Your total monthly cost is around $800, and you're losing money every single month you own it. Now let's look at how someone focused on wealth building approaches that same $500 monthly cash flow. They use it as part of a down payment and mortgage on a rental property. Maybe they buy a $100,000 duplex, put $20,000 down, and have mortgage payments of $400 per month. They rent both units for $650 each, collecting $1,300 in monthly rent. After paying the $400 mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and setting aside money for maintenance and vacancy, they might clear $200 per month in cash flow. But here's what's really happening. The tenant is paying down their mortgage principal every month, building equity. The property is likely appreciating over time. They're getting tax deductions for depreciation and expenses, and they're building wealth while someone else pays for it. After 6 years, the car buyer owns a vehicle worth maybe $8,000 that required $48,000 in total payments and expenses. The property buyer owns real estate worth $120,000 or more, has collected $1,400 in cash flow, built $25,000 in equity from principal paydown, and received significant tax benefits. Same monthly cash outflow, completely different wealth outcomes. But most people never see this choice because they've been conditioned to think about monthly payments rather than cash flow direction. They ask, can I afford the payment? Instead of asking, will this payment build wealth or destroy it? The financing industry loves this because they can sell bigger cars with longer payment terms to people who focus on monthly affordability rather than total cost. This pattern extends beyond cars. Poor people buy big screen TVs, expensive furniture, jewelry, designer clothes, and gadgets that lose value immediately. Rich people buy stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, and intellectual property that generate income or appreciate over time. The psychological difference is profound. When poor people get a tax refund or bonus, they often treat it as fun money to buy something they've wanted. When wealthy people get extra money, they immediately ask, how can I use this to generate more money? One mindset sees money as something to spend, the other sees money as something to multiply. This creates compound effects over decades. Every liability purchase not only costs money directly, but also represents opportunity cost. The money spent on car payments could have been invested. The money spent on designer clothes could have been used for a business startup. The money spent on expensive dinners could have been used to buy dividend-paying stocks. Meanwhile, every asset purchase not only generates income directly, but also provides compound benefits. Real estate appreciation, plus rental income, plus tax advantages, plus leverage effects. Business ownership, plus retained earnings, plus tax benefits, plus potential sale value. Each asset purchase makes the next asset purchase easier because you have more income and equity to work with. The marketing industry understands this psychology perfectly. They sell liabilities using asset language. A car isn't sold as a depreciating liability that will cost you hundreds of thousands over your lifetime. It's sold as an investment in your image, your freedom, your success. A luxury watch isn't sold as a piece of jewelry that loses half its value when you buy it. It's sold as an heirloom, a status symbol, an investment piece. Banks and finance companies amplify this by making liability purchases seem affordable through financing. Instead of thinking about the $30,000 total cost of a car, you think about the $500 monthly payment. Instead of considering whether you should spend $30,000 on something that depreciates, you only consider whether you can afford $500 per month. The financing makes the bad decision seem reasonable. But wealthy people use financing differently. They finance assets, not liabilities. They'll get a mortgage to buy rental property because tenants will pay the mortgage while the property appreciates. They'll get business loans to buy equipment that generates revenue. They'll use margin loans to buy more investments that produce income. They use debt to acquire things that pay for themselves and generate wealth. The education system contributes to this problem because it doesn't teach financial literacy or the difference between assets and liabilities. Students learn algebra and history, but graduate without understanding compound interest, cash flow, or opportunity cost. They enter the working world financially illiterate and susceptible to marketing that encourages wealth-destroying purchases. Social conditioning reinforces liability purchasing because success is measured by consumption rather than net worth. People are impressed by expensive cars, designer clothes, and luxury gadgets. Nobody sees your investment portfolio when you walk down the street. So there's social pressure to buy visible liabilities, while asset purchases remain invisible and unrecognized. This is why you see expensive cars parked outside modest apartments. People prioritize visible status symbols over invisible wealth building. They'd rather look rich while being poor than look modest while building actual wealth. The social reward system encourages liability accumulation and punishes asset focus. Credit scores amplify this because they measure your ability to make debt payments, not your wealth building capability. Having car payments, credit card payments, and other liability payments actually improves your credit score because it demonstrates payment history. Someone with multiple asset-based income streams but no debt payments might have a lower credit score than someone drowning in liability payments. The tax system also favors asset purchases over liability purchases. When you buy stocks, real estate, or businesses, you get preferential tax treatment on income and gains. When you buy cars, clothes, or gadgets, you pay sales tax and get no deductions. The government subsidizes wealth building and penalizes consumption, but most people don't structure their purchases to take advantage of this. Age compounds the problem because liability purchases become habits that are hard to break. Someone who starts buying cars with payments in their 20s might make car payments for 40 years, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on depreciating assets. Meanwhile, someone who starts buying rental properties in their 20s might own dozens of cash-flowing properties by retirement. The opportunity cost is staggering. Every $500 monthly payment toward a liability could have been $500 monthly income from an asset. Over 20 years, the liability buyer spends $120,000 and owns nothing. The asset buyer collects $120,000 while building equity and appreciating properties. But breaking this pattern requires changing your entire relationship with money. Instead of seeing money as something to spend on things you want, you have to see money as something to deploy toward things that generate more money. Instead of optimizing for monthly affordability, you have to optimize for long-term wealth building. The hardest part is delayed gratification. Buying a liability provides immediate satisfaction. You get to drive the car, wear the clothes, or use the gadget right away. Buying assets often provides delayed or invisible benefits. The rental property might not generate positive cash flow for months. The stock dividends might be small initially. The business might take years to become profitable. This is why wealthy people often appear to live below their means. They're not being cheap or miserly. They're optimizing for asset accumulation rather than lifestyle consumption. They understand that every dollar spent on liabilities is a dollar not invested in assets, and assets compound while liabilities depreciate. The marketing industry fights against this understanding by creating emotional attachment to liability purchases. Cars are sold as freedom and status. Clothes are sold as self-expression and confidence. Electronics are sold as productivity and entertainment. The emotional benefits are emphasized while the financial costs are minimized through financing and payment plans. But wealthy people make purchasing decisions based on mathematics rather than emotions. They calculate total cost of ownership, opportunity cost, and cash flow impact. They buy assets that generate income and appreciate in value while minimizing purchases that consume cash without generating returns. Understanding this distinction changes every financial decision. Instead of asking, "Do I want this?" you ask, "Will this make me wealthier or poorer?" Instead of focusing on monthly payments, you focus on total lifetime cost and opportunity cost. Instead of buying things to impress others, you buy things that generate income to fund the lifestyle you actually want. The choice between assets and liabilities isn't really about money. It's about whether you want to spend your life working to pay for things that lose value, or whether you want to build a portfolio of things that generate income while you sleep. One path leads to decades of payments and financial stress. The other leads to financial freedom and generational wealth. Most people choose liabilities because they've never been taught the alternative. They follow the consumption patterns they see around them without understanding the long-term consequences. But once you understand the difference between assets and liabilities, every purchase becomes a choice between building wealth and destroying it.